Hey guys. So I've just had another experience that has proven to me what I see as a very beneficial part of my life philosophy that has sort of become a part of naturally how I approach things. Something that isn't really hard, something I'm not having to try really hard to do anymore, which is not thinking about anything beyond tomorrow for the majority of the time you're conscious. The majority of the time you're conscious should take place in that time period. Ideally, I think, it all moves back towards the present moment. Ideally, you'd be in the present moment all the time. I've brought that down to, is it happening today or tomorrow? If not, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to think about it. I'm going to think about it as little as possible. Of course, worries about things still come up, but you stop thinking about them as quickly as you can. You catch yourself and stop. Catch yourself and stop could basically be the catchphrase for everything having to do with having a decent life, I think. Because it all comes down to, how are you going to react to the situations that arise every day in your life? How are you going to, what are your emotional reactions going to be? That's really all it comes down to, is managing yourself and your emotions. Anyway, I used to waste a lot of time just kind of being miserable about certain things that were, appeared to be about to happen in the future. And the most clear and specific examples would be like things like events that I knew were going to happen, that I didn't want to deal with, that I didn't want to, when I was a little kid and I had dentist appointments, my mom wouldn't tell me about it until the day that they were happening, because if she told me I had a dentist appointment, I would just think about it and worry about it the whole time until, so it's kind of funny. I just thought of that for some reason. My mom, she did this for me because apparently this has always been my orientation. I'm guessing it's many people's orientation towards things coming up. Don't think about them until the day before they're happening. What that's translated to in reality is essentially, taking care. You have to pay your bills and stuff. There are things that you need to do that are happening 2 weeks from now. So I'm not saying don't pay your bills until the day before your bills are due. Set them up to be paid. You can spend a little bit of time taking care of tasks for the future, but there is no point in thinking about things that are going to happen beyond the end of tomorrow. And that is because the world is incredibly chaotic and unpredictable. Now there's an order to it, and you're influencing it, and all of that still stands. But the fact is that we don't know what is going to happen tomorrow, and we don't know what the meaning is of the events that are happening. And this is a very uncomfortable thing for people. It's very uncomfortable, and that's why almost everybody lapses into this illusion that things are going to happen the way we think they're going to happen. It's just an easier place to be. It's an easier way. It's an easier place to default to. But it is an illusion. Today, the reason that I'm bringing this up is I've just had yet another thing come up and prove that there is no point. I can't tell you how many times I have spent time feeling uncomfortable, for things much less unpleasant than like a dentist appointment. Just things that were coming up that I didn't feel up to the task for, or that I knew I was going to be uncomfortable. I knew I was going to be uncomfortable in. Feeling like, and for me specifically, especially like 10 years ago, during the time when I was kind of overweight, one thing that would just suck is if there was an event I knew I had to attend, and I knew I was not going to be comfortable with myself because I was so uncomfortable being at a heavier weight. And the challenges that came along with that for me, which was dressing in a way that I felt comfortable with, because I'm a person who loves clothing, believe it or not. I'm a person who loves clothing for times when I am not coming to or from the gym, going to or coming from the gym. And I just, for a long period of time, I could not clothe myself in a way that felt good. I just felt like it wasn't me. I don't know. I just felt, I don't know. So I would dread these events. I would think about them. I would know I was going to have to go through that experience. And it would bring up all the feelings I had about the fact that I wasn't where I wanted to be in my life at that time, that I didn't, I wasn't having success and having any kind of control over my thoughts or my actions. I just wasn't in the right state. I wasn't making things happen the right way. And it just, I would lapse into these feelings, and it sucked. It ate up like large parts of the interim between whenever I knew this event was going to happen and when it actually did or not. And this is the thing that started to become clear to me really quickly. There were multiple times where I thought I was going to have to do something, and then last minute, a few days before this thing was supposed to happen, it would get canceled, or something would come up that would make it so that I had a legitimate excuse not to go to it. Like I was sick, or like I had to go out of town, or there was an emergency, or often the event itself got canceled or changed or moved or something like that. And then I would be sitting there after receiving this information or figuring out that this thing wasn't even going to happen. And I would just say, wow, what a sucker. How much life did I just lose thinking about this? And eventually, at some point, I just thought, wow, I'm not going to do this anymore, because, look how often this thing doesn't even happen. What a waste of time. I'm not thinking about anything if it's not happening today, basically, or tomorrow. Mostly today. If it's not on the docket for today, I'm not going to think about it, because there are too many intervening factors. There are too many things that could happen. The number of variables and the fact that I am not directly in control of many of these makes it so that it's stupid to think about this. This is a dumb choice I'm making, and I don't want to make dumb choices. Just ask yourself, would an idiot do this thing? And if the answer is yes, do not do that thing. You can learn so much from the US version of The Office. So I've just now had another thing like this, which thankfully this time I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about the downsides of this event. This event, which now is half of it's not happening and the other half has just basically resolved any sort of tension that I had about it. I don't want to go into any kind of detail about what it is, but any and every moment I spent having any stress about attending this event was a complete waste. Not only that, but now that it has changed, now that this event has shifted, I've realized that it really makes sense that it did. It fits right in. It makes sense that it happened. And I did not have access to that understanding, that there was a good chance it wasn't going to go down the way it was expected to anyway. And that's because of the way I was feeling about it. That blocked me from having access to the vision, the foresight of understanding it probably wasn't going to go down the way that it was being planned anyway, which now seems really obvious in hindsight. I think part of the allure of thinking about and studying, by studying I mean like examining myself and observing and everything, I think part of it is the allure of possibly being able to have more foresight, which obviously the more you could understand the way things work, the more you could predict the way things will happen logically, slightly. I mean, it's like the universal coordinator always has the upper hand, always is going to have, be a step ahead of you. And I don't think it's maybe possible to really get truly tapped into that, but you can get some wisdom, you can get some experience. And from that, and when you remove yourself and your emotions from things, you're able to see a lot more clearly, and you'll be able to tell a lot more why things are happening, how they might happen, like that, stuff like that. That's why that's a draw for me. But I just wanted to say, again, I'm sure I've said this somewhere on this channel before, it is a total waste of time to think about anything as far out as like 2 weeks, a month, 6 months, a year. That's absurd. Things can happen to alter things that look like they're going to happen tomorrow. I mean, we've all experienced that. There could be something you're dreading happening tomorrow, or you're looking forward to happening tomorrow, and something occurs to just make it impossible for that thing to happen. But it does seem like the closer you get to something, the more it makes sense to think about it. But if it's out like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months, just really the best approach to those things is, okay, there's something, this is like sort of goes along with the ignoring the 3D, detaching completely from appearances. If you know something is supposed to happen and it makes you uncomfortable, just being able to just say, well, all right, there's a possibility floating around on the horizon. It seems solid. Somebody is saying, be here at this time on this date, or something like that. That feels really solid. That's an illusion. It's just a possibility. It's an idea that is floating out there. And if you think about it and worry about it, you are wasting your time. Because the way you're thinking about that event, or that it will even happen in the first place, it's just a made-up construct of your mind. Your experience of that thing will likely be completely different than the way you're imagining, if it even happens at all. It's like, where are you going to put your mental energy? That's really what this all comes down to. Where are you going to put your mental energy? And how much are you going to be able to control your reactions to the many illusions that are out there? When an event happens, it has no meaning other than what you give it, other than what you decide it means. It has no meaning, especially at the time it's happening. This whole thing is about emotional control. It's about focus. Where are you going to focus your attention? Where you focus your attention is going to determine what state you're in, how you're feeling, what frequency you're broadcasting, what frequency you're picking up. So this is one of those little things that I think it helps to logically think about, gather some evidence in support of. The things you worry about happening are rarely the things that happen. What's that Mark Twain saying? Oh, God, there's a really good one. Something like, man suffers a great many trials in his life, almost all of which take place in his mind, or something like that. Germane to this channel, germane to this topic, I just experienced another one. Another thing, another example. I did pretty good with this one. I didn't think about it too much. I'm trying to think, like, what did I do with this? I definitely stressed out about it a little. I made some bogus plans in my mind to prepare for it that I didn't end up doing, which is what I always do to make myself feel better about things that I don't want to do. I'm like, well, I'll do this so that it'll be, and then I don't do it. And let's see, I did a little shopping. I bought some clothing for it. And now that basically I didn't even need to do that. Because the things I was thinking I was going to have to do, I'm not going to have to do. Another example of something that, it's just amazing. It's just amazing how things will fall apart. And if you just don't think about things, they just don't happen, like, half the time. If you don't put your attention on it, then it just doesn't show up the same way. It doesn't show up the way you're thinking it will. Okay, that's it. I hope that I hope that had a beneficial element for somebody out there. Have a great day.